Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about a stock that is obviously really popular. That stock is Apple, biggest company in the world right now. Their stock is up 21% over the last year, while the rest of the market is only up 2%. So they're pretty much 10xing the market's return over the last 12 months. And so in this video, I'm just going to look into some of the recent news that came out surrounding Apple. I'm going to look at their financial statements, and then I'm going to use a discounted cash flow model to figure out the intrinsic value per share for Apple. And so right here in this article, it's titled, "Is it too late to buy Apple stock?" Some key points I touch on right out of the gates include the fact that Apple has been doing really well this year so far. They've been generating bigger returns than the broader market. Also, inflation and rising interest rates have weighed on consumer spending, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. A turnaround in the economy and an increased focus on international markets could fuel Apple's future growth. In particular, they point out here that shares of Apple are up 32% year to date, more than 4 times the 7% gains of the S&P 500. On top of that, they touch on some things that have been weighing on Apple's stock. The overall bear market obviously has been fueled by 40-year high inflation rates, and the resulting interest rate hikes are designed to keep high prices at bay. The economic uncertainty pulled back a lot of consumer spending into the iPhone, which is Apple's biggest product. It's obviously a very expensive product. But one of the things that could contribute to driving Apple's stock higher, aside from a recovery in consumer spending, is the fact that Apple has a big ecosystem of products: Apple Pay, Apple TV Plus, Apple Music, and each of these products and apps acts as a part of their ecosystem and makes it more likely that users will stick around and continue to use their growing list of services, which will boost Apple's revenue. Another potential opportunity for Apple is their long-rumored mixed reality headset, which is expected to combine elements of virtual reality and augmented reality. It's going to be potentially priced at $3,000, with sales of about $1 million during their first year of release. And also on top of that, the company launched its first online store in Vietnam and its first retail store in India, which is the second largest smartphone market. And those two moves could also help Apple tap into new and lucrative opportunities, not just domestically, but internationally as well. So a lot of interesting catalysts coming up that could help boost Apple's stock, aside from just the recession going away and consumer spending becoming a little better. Then right here, this is their quarterly report. I'm going to look at their income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. Right here, this is their income statement. Revenue is down about 3% year over year, from $97 billion to $94 billion. And then net income is down from $25 billion to $24 billion year over year. Right here on page 6, this is their balance sheet. We can see total assets are down from $352 billion to $332 billion from September 2022 till now April 2023. Also, we can see right here that most of their business is financed by liabilities. They have $270 billion of liabilities and about $62 billion of total equity. Of that, they have retained earnings of $4.3 billion, which is up from accumulated deficit of $3 billion in the prior period. And lastly, for page 8, we can see their cash flow statement. They have operating cash flow of about $62.5 billion, which is down from $75 billion year over year. Then if I scroll down here, we'll be able to see their repurchases of common stock and their dividends. We can see that they repurchased about $39 billion of common stock and paid out around $7.4 billion worth of dividends. So in total, that's about $46 billion returned back to shareholders in a year where they generated, or in a quarter where they generated $62 billion in operating cash flow. So very impressive. Obviously, Apple returns a lot of value back to shareholders, and they've been doing so over this is a 6-month result, not the first quarter result. So that's how much they return in the first half of 2023 fiscal year. So still very impressive, and definitely a good sign for current shareholders of Apple. And right here, this is a discounted cash flow model to figure out the intrinsic value per share for Apple. They're expected to grow at 9 to 10% for the next 5 years. They have $111 billion of free cash flow in their most recent full year. They have around $53 billion net debt position, and $15 billion shares outstanding. Excuse me. And so right here, their estimated intrinsic value per share comes out to be $104 per share. That means that at the moment, Apple is currently trading above their estimated intrinsic value per share at $179 per share based on these estimates from Yahoo Finance. Then right here on the right-hand side, I compare them to the other big tech companies, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Meta from a financial ratio perspective. We can see that across the board, Apple is pretty competitive. They have a lower gross profit margin compared to the rest of the pack, but they have a very good net profit and return on assets compared to the rest of the companies. The only company that has a higher net profit margin than them is Microsoft, but they do have the highest return on assets. They also have one of the lowest PE ratios, and they're one of two of the only companies in this list of 5 that pays a dividend. They pay about 60 cents for every $100 you invest into Apple, compared to Microsoft's 97 cents. So, and the other companies don't pay a dividend at all. So based on this, it looks like Apple is pretty competitive. If you wanted to base it just on profit margins, you'd probably give it to Microsoft because they have the highest net profit margin, and then based on dividend as well. But that being said, Apple is still very competitive. Then lastly, to end off the video, I wanted to compare them to other companies we've looked at. Apple at the moment is trading at $179 per share, and their intrinsic value per share is estimated to be $104 per share. So that is not good enough to get them onto the list. They're basically trading at around 1.6 to 1.7 times their intrinsic value. Google, General Electric, Etsy, and ConocoPhillips are the only companies on our list that are currently trading below intrinsic value per share. In terms of growth rate, we can see Apple had a projected growth rate of around 10%, not good enough to get them onto the table. Chipotle had the highest at 26%. In terms of gross profitability and net profitability, Apple had a 43% and a 25% net profit or gross profit and net profit margin. Gross profit 43%, not good enough to get them onto the table, but Apple net profit 25% is good enough to get them into the 4th place spot here. Microsoft and Adobe hold the number 1 spots for gross profit and net profit. And then lastly, for return over the last 5 years, we saw from the stock chart here that Apple is up about 270%, almost 300% over the last 5 years. That puts them in the 5th place spot. They're doing really well in terms of returning value back to shareholders. And this is not including the dividends that they pay to their shareholders. This is just a share price increase. So if you were to include the dividends, it would probably be even higher than this. Tesla obviously has the number 1 spot at about a 1,000% return. So based on this, it looks like Apple is pretty competitive to the other companies we've looked at. They have a really good stock price return, great net profit margin, but in terms of gross profit, growth rate, and intrinsic value to share price, they're not doing as well as other companies we've looked at. They're pretty competitive in their industry, in the big tech industry, but at the moment they're currently not trading below intrinsic value per share based on these estimates from Yahoo Finance. So I'd love to know what you guys think about Apple. Obviously, this stock is doing really good over the last year and over the last few months. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see everyone in the next one.